Shall we talk about this modern day duel? Donald Trump saying, I hereby challenge you, Rupert Murdoch, and your little sons, and all your editors over at the Wall Street Journal. And let's throw in Biden too, to a mental acuity test. You see, this whole thing is coming about because Donald Trump wasn't happy about the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who does own Fox News. He's a majority shareholder, and his sons, of course. It came about because the Wall Street Journal asked in a poll about Donald Trump's basically mental health. They kind of had to ask it in fairness to the Wall Street Journal because, well, they were asking about Joe Biden's. And actually, the poll results were disastrous, absolutely, positively disastrous for Joe Biden. But Donald Trump did not waste this opportunity to take a shot at Rupert Murdoch, to take a shot at the Murdoch boys, to take a shot at Fox News, basically saying, they're all globalists. They don't like me. They didn't get their candidate that they wanted in. That would have been DeSantis, of course. And so now, they're kind of bitter and they're putting out what he calls, quote, fake polls like this. I will say again, the poll was pretty darn accurate when it came to Joe Biden. But Donald Trump got a little sensitive about it. I get it. But wait till you see what people are saying about Biden. I mean, that was, maybe I'm too glass half full. We can talk about the Murdochs being globalists and the whole bit and Fox News going downhill, which it has. But let's just go, first of all, to this poll. If you can see it, it says, question, is Joe Biden too old to run for president? So you kind of have to ask the same question, right, about Donald Trump, even though, he doesn't want to hear that. But look at his scores. Hey, you know what? He's doing way better, like without a doubt better than Joe Biden. I mean, the bar's low. The bar's lower, as you're going to see in Vietnam in just a second. But I would say that this was some pretty good scoring. I mean, he came out light years ahead of Joe Biden on like everything. It really is scaring the living daylights, I kid you not, out of Democrats right now. It's why they're talking about Michelle Obama. Okay, now we're all scared, right? I'm going to get to that in a second. But anyway, they asked, is he too old to run for president? Is he mentally up for the job? Look at Trump way outscores Biden because yes, like, I would say they're both up there in age, right? But Biden is older and Biden is that much more frail. And granted, Biden has never been a rocket scientist. And he's always kind of said stupid stuff. And he's always kind of carried a grudge. And I've heard this from Democrat sources that actually really helped him in his campaign, wanted him to win. They're like, this is a guy that can be really bitter and carries a grudge. So he's not necessarily like a really nice guy or anything, but he's never been sharp, okay? Just never, ever been sharp. So let's go on. These were the two questions, as I point out. These were the questions that really irritated Donald Trump. But the good news is he's one, way more mentally fit as far as the public is concerned, and way younger and more able to do the job. But I get a kick out of him taking aim at the Murdochs because, hey, why not? Look, the Murdochs have not been exactly a friend to Donald Trump. Not that they need to be, right? It's not their job. Their job, see, that's how you know it's a live show. Their job is to sell newspapers and to, get people watching their television shows and sell advertising, this, that, and the other. But I would say that there's been a particular sort of kind of hatred directed at Donald Trump. And as a result, they don't want him to win. I mean, he is not, quote unquote, controllable. And so all of the establishment players within the media circles and even within the deep state circles and within the sort of global environment, so nobody wants him to win, right? Because he's going to call everything out. He's not going to play by the same set of rules. And maybe he doesn't have the same interests as all those other guys. And so he took this opportunity to say, I hereby challenge you. You're waiting for the duel, right? I hereby challenge you. Rupert Murdoch and sons, Biden, Wall Street Journal heads to acuity tests. By the way, I actually think that Donald Trump would probably win those. I mean, Rupert's up there. What is he, like 93 years old? Forgive me. Is it 92? I think we put it in the title, so I'll have to go back and check. But he's up there. I think he's still sharp. That's what I've heard. I used to work at Fox, so I'd occasionally ride with him in the elevator. He's like up to here on me. I'm about 5'7". So I don't know. Maybe he's like here. Anyway, he's small, so that makes him seem older, and he lacks hair, so that also makes him seem older. But I'm told that he's with it on the news cycle and that he's very involved and would actually be texting, the head of news and the second in command all the time with stories and ideas. So my intelligence, and again, I've never worked with him directly, but my intelligence is that he was very, very involved in the coverage of the news. Actually, that's probably in part what came back to haunt him, right? And the whole Dominion thing, having to pay nearly $800 million, and then probably came back to haunt him again in Smartmatic. I'm sure they didn't want some of that stuff to come out. But anyway, Rupert Murdoch is likely pretty decently on it, even though he's that old. Now, Donald Trump brings up something else, which is important and relevant. And he basically says, look, you guys have ruined the Wall Street Journal and you've ruined Fox. These entities are sort of shadows of themselves. Let me get the direct, exact words for you, because that's sort of me paraphrasing. But I thought that was rather telling, a rather telling thing, because that, in fact, is indeed true. And that's, well, it gets back to what I've said all along. It's because they don't have decent management over at Fox News. And, well, Wall Street Journal, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I think the Wall Street Journal is decent. Occasionally, they kind of surprise me with their own biases, which are pretty obvious at times. But for the most part, it's an okay paper. I think if you really want financial news, you probably go to the FT over in London. And the newspaper print doesn't really get on your hands. It's that pale pink paper. So like if you're really into wanting to read about financial news, go to the FT. I don't really get it. Wall Street Journal's kind of become quasi New York Post. So it's not as sophisticated as it once was. So maybe that's what Donald Trump means. I mean, they kind of have ruined what the paper was. I would actually agree with that to a certain extent. It had a little bit more sophistication to it previously, prior to Murdoch's involvement. I mean, he's a tabloid guy, right? Like that's what he grew up on. That's his thing. He likes gossip. I'll tell you a funny story. I was actually once doing an interview with some families. It's not a funny story, actually. It's a sad story. Whose family members were being held hostage in Venezuela. The good news is all their family members got out, but these were Americans who had their family members as hostages in Venezuela. And there was news on Jeff Bezos and his, now wife, I guess, that had just broken. And here I am, I'm sitting there with these like 12 family members. And in my ear, I have the producer saying, you got to go to the Jeff Bezos news. I was about to say noise, because that's what it is. It's noise. Like, who cares about Jeff Bezos and his girlfriend, who used to be like some kind of LA TV news anchor? I don't know. I don't care. I'm sitting here doing a really emotional interview with these victims, right? These families who have lost their loved ones in Venezuela. And all I can hear is Rupert wants to go and do this tabloid Jeff Bezos being seen with this chickie like that. It was just, and I had to do it. Like, I was like, this is the most awkward transition of my entire career. And I feel horrendous for these family members that are here. So when I say the Wall Street Journal has gone downhill, or Donald Trump says the Wall Street Journal has gone downhill, I don't disagree with him. It has gone downhill. And I encourage you to look at the FT if you want real financial news. Anyway, I'm going to get the exact same. I want to make sure I'm completely accurate and fair to what he indeed actually said. But he issued a whole bunch of statements there on Truth Social. And again, challenging Biden, challenging Rupert Murdoch to an acuity test. He did point out that he was the only one last time around that agreed to take it. And he's like, look, I passed it with flying colors. He said, a few years ago, I was the only one to agree to a mental acuity test, and I aced it. He went on to say, now the globalists at Fox and the Wall Street Journal have failed to push their third-tier candidate to success. They do this. Well, I hereby challenge Rupert Murdoch and Sons, Biden, Wall Street Journal heads to acuity tests. I will name the place and the test, and it will be a tough one. Nobody will come close, even close to me. We can also throw some physical activity into it. Okay. Because it's a chance for him to he won like some golf thing recently. He goes on to say, I just won the senior club championship at a big golf club with many very good players. To do so, you need strength, accuracy, touch, and above all, mental toughness. Ask Brett Baer over at Fox, a very good golfer. The Wall Street Journal and Fox are damaged goods. That's the quote I was looking for. Damaged goods after their failed, sanctimonious push and stupid $780 million settlement. He ends it with morons. Yeah, $780 million settlement. By the way, that's not good for the news industry overall. It tells you they were worried. They were really, really, really worried about other stuff coming out. And so they made that settlement because they didn't want other stuff to come out. But it's a bad precedent, frankly, for the First Amendment, for news organizations. If you're legitimately trying to cover something and you've got the likes of Rudy Giuliani or whoever, right? The president's lawyers coming out and saying X, Y, Z. It's hard to just say, okay, well, I'm going to completely ignore that. I would say that, and I think they did this, I'm not entirely certain, that if the company has come forward and they have a statement, right, Dominion, then it's sort of your obligation to also give the other side of the story. I'm not entirely sure whether they did that all the time. Anyway, we'll leave that aside, but I do think that he's making the point that you guys have run the place into the ground. Now, ratings are still okay. I don't think that Fox, over the next 20 years is where you want to be, at least as a shareholder. Let the family keep it, right? I don't know if they're like keeping up with the changes in media, such as what we're doing here right now, what Tucker's doing over on Twitter. There is a whole new game in town, and it's a far more targeted one in terms of advertisers, because at some point during this show, you're going to hear something from an advertiser, whether it's me reading it, whether it's YouTube or Facebook inserting something, but it's more directly targeted to you, which is a very different medium than TV. TV will be around for a while. It's not like it's going away overnight, but the profitability of a company like Fox News is going to be challenged. The Wall Street Journal is the Wall Street Journal. I would say if he wants to protect that revenue stream in the future, I would actually try to go back to its roots and make it a little more FT and make it a little bit more special, as opposed to seeping in all your New York Post. Don't get me wrong, I love the New York Post, okay? Love it. It's fun paper to read. But the more of that that's in the Wall Street Journal, the less you're going to be able to command as a price tag. And they do actually command a price, right? You have to pay for the Wall Street Journal. So there's lots of challenges and things coming forward that will make things harder and harder for Fox, for the Wall Street Journal, for these traditional media companies. And that's just the reality. So you got to think about it, right? As a shareholder, you got to think very, very carefully. I'm just going to check on shares today as we look at the market. A market that is trading at present higher right now. Let's see if I can pull up shares of Fox. It's traded under A and B, the family, of course, owning the A. Those are the better class shares, and it's doing okay. It's up 1.6%, $29 a share. That said, this company is not doing what it was. It had been up around, 33? Yeah, it had been up at least at 32 earlier in the spring. So in the last month, it's come under some pressure, and that does not surprise me. Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.